Hello, dear students. The topic of this lecture that we are going to discuss right now is feedback in communication. Feedback, as you know, is the last step in the process of communication. When the receiver has received and perceived and interpreted and understood the message, after that, the receiver gives a feedback to the sender. So, feedback is a kind of response or a reaction of the receiver back to the sender. For example, there is a person is delivering a speech or a lecture, and there is something wonderful, and all the audience makes an applause. So, you are clapping. So, your hands are clapping. This action of yours is actually a feedback of what you have received. Now, let's look another way. If there is a comic scene in a movie, you're watching a drama or a movie and there is a comic scene, a humorous scene, but you do not feel laughing because you have not understood the fun in that comic scene. You could not appreciate the piece of humor that is there. So the receiver cannot give a good feedback unless he understands the message. To give a feedback requires a good understanding of the message. So this is also a feedback that if your audience is not laughing, you are creating a fun but no one is laughing, it means that there is something wrong with your communication, or there is something wrong with the understanding at the receiver's end, that he could not understand well what was comic in that what you performed or said. So the action of laughing or the action of clapping is also a form of feedback, because that is the response of the receiver who is listening to you or attending your lecture or watching the movie that you are performing in. So, feedback is a kind of response or reaction of the receiver to the sender. And this is the final step in the process of communication. After the receiver has fully understood the message communicated by the sender, he creates his feedback. There can be a feedback in the form of silence as well. For example, someone is talking to you, but you do not speak anymore with him or her. You become silent. Your silence also communicates something. It gives a feedback that maybe you don't agree with what you have been communicated to you. Maybe you dislike that. Maybe your silence shows that you agree with that. Sometimes we want to say yes, but we cannot utter the word yes. So our silence shows our response. The whole process of communication is incomplete without this final step that we call feedback, because without feedback, the sender cannot understand that in what way or in what meaning the receiver understood his or her message. Because if there is no feedback, we don't know what's going on with our communication. At our end, sometimes we feel that I had communicated him or her very well. But the other person say, "Oh, did you say that? I did not know." It means we did not collect the feedback. We thought that we were sending the right message and we communicated well, but the receiver thinks that he was not communicated. So feedback, the response of the receiver, also gives us an opportunity to correct our way of communication. It makes us it lets us know that in what way our communication is going. Then this feedback can be in written form, it can be in oral form, it can be in the form of an action, it can be silence. For example, after watching this lecture, when you will add your comments in the comment section below, that will be your written feedback. How do you feel? How well you understood the topic? And what questions arise in your minds after attending this lecture? The feedback can also be oral. For example, if you're asking a question and there is an answer by the receiver, so that is also shows that he understood well your question. For example, if you are asking, "Do you like morning walk?" and someone is saying yes, that's a feedback in the positive affirmation sense that he has well understood your question. There can be inaction in feedback as well. As I told you earlier, for example, you have delivered a masterpiece of speech. So at your speech, the audience makes applause. They start do clapping. So they're clapping this action. Why they are doing this action? Because they are feeling excited. They are amazed at your wonderful choice of words and your way of speaking. So that action of clapping is also a form of feedback that your audience is giving. And you're asking something and people become silent. Suddenly, at certain words, all your audience becomes silent. That also shows there was something thrilling or there was something shocking. So the silence is also a form of feedback. Silence, maybe you are asking someone to join with you on some project and he remains silent. His silence may be showing the disagreement, or maybe it's showing that the listener or the receiver has no interest in what you are communicating to him or her. Feedback also helps to achieve the goals of communication. So when you listen to the feedback and when you collect the feedback, that shows you how well you communicated and your motive or reason why you started the process of communication was either achieved or not. You understand by the feedback. When you see the response of your audience or receiver of the communication and you think that whether he understood it well or not, so the feedback helps the sender to see up to which degree the goals of communications have been achieved. And the feedback is also evaluation of receiver's attitude. So when you are talking something serious with someone but the people are laughing and making fun, it gives you a reflection of the attitude and behaviors and the mindset and the status or level of your audience, that how much they understand, they can appreciate your message that you have communicated to them. So by the feedback you can evaluate the level of your audience. By the feedback you can evaluate the receiver's attitude as well. The feedback can be positive, it can also be negative. People might be appreciating, might be there is someone who is feeling annoyed or irritated by the message that you communicated to them. So their feedback can also be negative. In present days, you have in the form of emojis, in the form of liking and disliking, icons and WhatsApp and other social media devices that also give you the feedback. And the comment section of the YouTube videos is also a way of giving a feedback. That is also a way for the sender to see that what goes on in the minds of the audience or the receivers after they receive the message which you communicated. So the feedback is very important and you must consider the feedback to improve your communication skills as well. In that way you can make communication more effective from both sides, from sender and from the receiver side. I hope so this lecture might be fruitful for you. Thanks for watching. Take care.